Can you believe that a girl just disappeared for good reason? That's right, it's me. My name is Lin Huanhuan, an ordinary girl who just became a working girl. When you take a bath at home, you are somehow transported to a strange world. I'm still struggling with how I can't feel the side of the bathtub and haven't realized that I'm no longer in the bathtub. When I slowed down and looked at the scene in front of me, I froze. I'm in a lake, surrounded by mountains, a spring, and birds in the sky. I'm probably the only one who's traveled through the ages just by taking a bath. I can only cover my chest because of the bubble bath. The only thing that followed me across was a scrubby towel, and I couldn't help the tears that were streaming down my face. But this world is nothing like the modern world I live in. Being in the primeval forest, with all the horrible beasts and poisons, scares me a lot. And orcs that turn into beasts, white tigers. He wanted me to be his mate straight away. And Silver Wolf, who shamelessly asked me to mate with him. And pythons too. I can't answer that. And finally, there's the man in the temple with the mouth that says just use your body to make up for it. I can't resist. Can I go back to modern times if I pass out now? Fortunately, following me to this world, there's a hidden system. Host! The information on creatures and plants in this atlas can help you survive in this world. With the system and iconography, I can also bravely live in this dangerous world, use the illustrations and knowledge, work hard on farming and infrastructure, and reopen a new world in this beast world. Then came the time when I had just come into the world, and the man before me asked me from what tribe you had run away, and his eyes were full of joy. I was so shocked by this man. He just held me and rushed to let go of me. When I lowered my head, it was like a bolt from the blue. Shyly, I called him a big pervert, because at this point I wasn't dressed, and he wasn't dressed either. I struggled to get away. You let go of me. I'll call the police if you keep doing that. You pervert. You put your clothes back on, and he said he wouldn't hurt me. But when I think about it, you're not even wearing clothes. Saying that the devil will believe you are. The corner of my eye tears flow down. He held me up. I'm not going to do anything to you as long as you don't run away. And he wondered why I was crying. I was scared and I said, then put me down. He said yes, and put me down, and I looked like I was in distress. The moment I let go, I run away from here. The lake ripples. I heard him say, you're too slow. I can easily catch up with you no matter where you go. I turned my head sheepishly. Aren't you ashamed to be naked? Can you put on some clothes first? This man pinches his hair. I'm in the shower. Naked of course. Aren't you too? He's right, I can't believe I'm speechless. I shed helpless tears. Even if you let me come in a dress. I looked to the side, and there was a dress. When I picked it up, God, I believe you. It was just a towel. He's coming my way. I don't know what to do. And he asked me, where's your male? Little female. And I certainly don't know what it is. What females? What males? He explained to me, I'm a male. You're a female. We can be mates. Didn't anyone tell you that? I'm a little overwhelmed. No way. What world have I traveled to? And what kind of male beast are you then? The man's eyes are glazed over. My name is Whitey. Then a burst of spiritual light surrounded by D, and his body had changed. In the end, he turned into a white tiger. I can't believe it. It's a tiger monster. The white tiger looked at me and I fell straight back in shock. I slowly sink to the bottom of the lake. If this is a nightmare, please let me wake up soon. That's when a ding was heard in his head, confirming the host Lin slowly and starting to dock the information. Information docking successful. System fully activated. Hello, host. Welcome to System 438. The mind is still pondering over the system something, and then I woke up and felt the wind. My hands are touching this fur. It's so soft. Is it a blanket? The white tiger's mouth is talking. You're awake. I can't believe it. Is the blanket talking? I looked at the fur in front of me. It wasn't a blanket. It was tiger fur, and he told me to hold on tight so it didn't fall off. How do you feel? Are you still in pain? A gust of wind blew, and I shivered with cold. Having nothing on, and being blown by the mountain winds, the white tiger stops dead in his tracks. Suddenly he transformed back into Whitey and hugged me. He came to a tree and was going to jump on it with me in his arms. Put me down. Let me stay here for now. And he suddenly unzips his trousers. What are you doing? Throw me a cloth and a dagger. These are for you. And Whitey jumped right in. Wait for me. Be right back. And then it turned into a white tiger. I looked at him curiously, wanting to go for what? And the white tiger looked up at the... He's aiming for the boar over there. Who doesn't know the danger is coming? The white tiger roared. Immediately, he ran to capture the wild boar, which wailed in fear and tried to run away. Looking at the scene in front of him, it actually bites and the boar is still screaming. The bite and strength was so terrible that the boar could only scream and convulse. else, and I'm not even enough for him to eat. Then he changed back to his human form. He's got some cuts on him. Come to the tree. It's okay now. Jump down. Jump down. Are you kidding me? This is a height of 4 meters. In case of a bad jump, it will be directly hiccup dead. Whitey opens his hand. Is this female scared? How do you take care of such a small and delicate female? I was still naked and hesitating in the tree, afraid to jump. Whitey jumped up and thought, looks like we'll have to poke around when we get to the wolf tribe in a bit. He jumped with me in his arms, reaching out for me to give him the bone knife. He took his bone knife and went at the boar. So fast, such a big boar, and cut it to pieces in a flash. And this boar's skin is on me. The skins are cleaned and this will give you protection from the cold. I heard a ding. What was that? Obtained 1 boar skin. Triggered a novice task. Please ask the host to collect the number of animal skins. After the completion of the task, a novice gift pack will be issued. Whitey called out to me, and I was awakened, not yet knowing what the task was. I bowed to show my gratitude and straight away I charmed Whitey. I'll buy you clothes when we get to the wolf tribe. As for the wolf tribe, I still don't know where it is. And he explained that he usually goes over there to exchange or buy anything he needs from them. It also sounded like a village, but Whitey had only heard of tribes and cities. I got curious and asked him what the city was, and if there were any humans in it. I've never heard of it. The cities are built by orcs. They are very powerful and fierce. I can show you later if you're interested. I hear orcs. That means no humans. The White Emperor suddenly took out a piece of meat and asked me if I would eat it. I was shocked and surely didn't eat it. But if I don't eat, my body will have no strength. I'm scared and I'm determined not to eat. Whitey turned around and walked away. He told me to wait. A few minutes later, he came back with all kinds of fruits and asked me if I could eat them. I had a sweet and sour bite. Thank you. Watching me, Whitey wondered if I was a vegetarian orc. I don't know how to shapeshift. I responded to him awkwardly. I'm kind of an omnivore, and it's not that I don't eat meat. I just don't eat raw meat. If it's cooked meat, I quite like it too. How do you get cooked meat? I'll do it for you. I thought about the conditions here, and there are no pots here. Frying and stewing are impossible. You can only grill meat. Right, then you have to have a fire in the first place. When he heard me say fire, the White Emperor raised an eyebrow. So I asked him if you've seen fire, and he nodded back. The destructive power of fire. It's too horrible for orcs. Must we use fire to do it? I nodded back, and with what seemed like a sigh, he was ready to lead me to the fire. To my amazement, I pulled out a stick that could be drilled for fire. Next it was my show alone. I struggled to twirl the stick as Whitey watched on. 30 minutes later, I'm upping the ante. After 40 minutes I just dropped the damn thing all over again. Sure enough, the TV is a lie. Whitey cupped my hand and told me not to mess with it. He kissed the kissing hand tenderly and led me to the fire, while I was a little shy. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. Whatever you want, I'll get it for you. You're my female, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. He hugged me and said these words. I froze when I heard about my females, these guys. Shyly, I pushed away from his body. I'm no one's female. When I looked into his eyes, they were so gentle but with a kind of determination. And he said, you don't have to be afraid. As long as I'm here, I'll protect you. He took my hand. Even if you're weak, I'll get you well. This orc is so powerful, yet so gentle. He was adopted by his uncle after his parents died in an accident when he was a child. It wasn't abusive, but from that point on, my home was gone. After that, I grew up alone and got used to the unprotected world. He asked me again, my hands are so cold. Are they not feeling well? He hugged me worriedly and put his hand on my chest. Is that better? This warm, dry temperature, gentle embrace. The first time I felt such tender treasures since Mom and Dad left. Mere worried concern, like family. I panicked and said it was okay. This warmth was felt again in an orc. Then the sun shone. He carried me on his back and was going to take me to the wolf tribe first to show them my body. I say it's fine, but it doesn't work anymore because I fainted earlier for some reason. I'm sweating. I can't say you scared me out of my wits. Don't worry, I won't leave you no matter what your problems are. He had re-emphasized that you are my female, and I'm really female. I smiled helplessly, and remembering what the mission just said, I want 2 more animal skins, is it okay? He said it's okay and asked me to wait a bit. An hour later, he brought 5 skins. Not enough to get some more. Whitey suddenly assumed human form and helped me sort the blood stains out of my skin, and I looked sheepishly at his body. Found out he hurt his arm. Whitey looks at his arm wound and says it's fine. It'll be fine in a minute. I went up and touched his arm. Thank you. You are my female. I would do anything for you. He rubbed against me and said these words. This orc really likes to rub and cuddle, almost like a big cat. Whitey then prepares to leave. first going to wipe the blood stains to remove the smell, or his prey will smell it. I waved my hand and he finally left. I just heard a ding. Confirmation that the newbie mission has been completed. Issuing newbie gift packs. Please pay attention to the host to check receipt. A cloth bag appeared directly in front of my eyes. I waved the stick in my bag, which seemed to be hollow inside. As soon as I opened it, I was surprised to find that it was kindling. Great! Finally a spark. Curious to see if there are any more treasures. One of the books that appeared as part of an illustrated compendium of ancient flora and fauna. I heard voices. Whitey's back. Whitey noticed my behavior too. I greeted him back with averted eyes, still carrying my own cloth bag. The corners of Whitey's mouth rose slightly. It seems that my little female still has little secrets, but it's okay when we spend more time together. I'll slowly unravel all the secrets in you. After that, we set off for the wolf tribe. When we came to the wolf tribe, we saw these wolves and orcs here. Every 10 days, the wolf tribe holds a fair at the bottom of the Rocky Mountains. The surrounding orcs would arrive with their own goods, exchanging what they needed. Looking at these orcs, how can they be so tall? A hand behind me grabbed my cloth bag and lifted me up in a flash. Whitey explained, females are precious, and there will be trouble when females like you are discovered. They swarm to compete for the right to mate with you. I was shocked by that. I heard a voice behind me. Please don't leave me. It's true that females are precious, and all the males around are circling this she-wolf. They all revolve around one woman. Things are rare, and it's very common to see dozens of male wolves surrounding a female. So the status of females in the wolf clan is very high. High status without productive labor, but it's scary to be surrounded by so many men. No! Perverts! He told me not to be afraid. I'll take you to a witch doctor. The orc seems to have noticed something. He turned his head and looked over. The other orc then asked him what was wrong. He said it was nothing. In my mind, that's just Whitey. Right, he's always been a loner. Why would he bring a partner? A man carries a beautiful woman to the wolf tribe. How can he have the leisure to take a walk? Whitey asks the witch doctor Longju to look after my mate, who suddenly fainted earlier. I quietly peeked out from behind the man, not realizing that this old grandpa looked like Father Christmas. Longju was stunned that the White Emperor had such a young female with him. He came at the female instantly, shouting uncontrollably from his mouth, "Little female, how many male mates have you had?" Whitey immediately moved forward to protect me. After all, it was his female and no one could hit on me. Longju's face was instantly gloomy. "You kid is so lucky to have found a female mate. Poor young lads of our wolf clan, fighting to get a female mate." I didn't expect him to be serious for a second, but he immediately walked up to me and took a closer look at me. As time passed, Longju finally understood my situation. Longchamp said that the little female was not sick, just that I looked too small and delicate and needed to be taken care of. So he dug into his sack and handed me some crunchy fruits as a gift. He also reminded me that they have a lot of fun in the wolf pack besides this. Longju suddenly told me to look at him more often. Their wolf boys are handsome, gentle and affectionate. I immediately said that I would only listen to Whitey. After all, it looked like that tiger was angry now. I saw the White Emperor lift me up as soon as he could, and the Longchamp witch doctor was still chattering excitedly. This old witch doctor must be up to no good. Whitey says he doesn't need to. He'll take care of me. So we walked towards the noisy streets, surrounded by people selling things that orcs need. I sat comfortably in the arms of the White Emperor and looked around suspiciously. Where was this going to go? Bai thought to himself that this little female cared a lot about being naked, so he'd better buy her a suitable dress first. As he mused, he led me quickly to the huge stone wall with colorful clothes hanging from it. I picked up the clothes aside and stroked them, not realizing that they were all real leather. The workmanship was simple, but it was better than being naked, so I rushed off to change my clothes. But the orcs' clothes were also too big, and I had to borrow a needle and thread from them. The beasts had only twine and stone needles, and I could not look at the rough tools without weeping. Suddenly I had a flash of insight. I had metal pins in my hair bands. Maybe I could use them. So I hastily took it off and carefully unwrapped the metal inside. Bai handed out a crystal coin in displeasure. She said the clothes were all too big. Weren't there any smaller ones? The shiny crystals are worth a fortune, but she's just too petite. But you can take 2 more outfits. When Whitey wanted to do something else, I stepped out of the fitting room and said I was done. I stood slightly rushed, waiting for Whitey to comment on my clothes. I didn't realize that Whitey was staring blankly at me, and that the clerk behind him had turned into an orc-like figure. I covered my chest in embarrassment. Was I wearing clothes that didn't fit? I only saw Whitey's eyes pulling at me and complimenting me on how good I looked in A. I shyly explained that the original dress was too big and I had it altered. I looked at my smooth little feet. Don't they sell shoes in the shop? So I looked down and saw them all walking barefoot in the street. At that moment Whitey suddenly looked up and gazed straight at my ankle. No wonder the little female's skin was so delicate, he mused darkly. No wonder it was all scratched up. In a moment of dawning realization, he asked the shopkeeper for a small set of needlework and animal skins. Whitey handed me something, and although he didn't say much, he was careful to feel what I wanted. Although he came to this world inexplicably, it wasn't that scary with him by his side. As I pondered this, I walked forward, when a voice suddenly came from behind me to intercept us. I didn't realize it was a little orc with a message that Longchamp Witch Doctor had invited them to his home. The White Emperor's eyes suddenly became fierce and he bluntly rebuffed the Witch Doctor's request. The wolf tribe was large, with many males and few females, and his little female was too much of a danger, so he immediately put me on his shoulders, intending to quickly leave this place of wrongdoing. The little orc was in a state of shock when he realized that Frost Cloud had actually returned. They've got a little female in the tribe, super pretty and well behaved, but she's only got one male mate right now. Frost Cloud said he hadn't seen it again and wasn't interested in these mates or anything else. He carried the food he had hunted to the mouth of the cave and waited for its imminent entry into his stomach. But he stood frozen at the mouth of the cave, looking gravely across at his companion. The sounds that came from inside the cave rose and fell, causing Frost Cloud to recoil in a paroxysm of stomach. He seemed to be looking up as if he were watching 3 orcs across the street enjoying a small female. The cave was full of charming. The female was being caressed by the male at will, but she was unable to resist at all. This thing, ugly as if it were a puddle of rotting flesh, rolling around in several males, was his mother. He couldn't contain himself any longer and quickly threw his prey to the ground. They were so disgusting. The females are all the same, ungrateful, lazy and greedy, only interested in hooking up with reliable males. Frost Cloud darted forward, indignant to get away from them. At that moment, outside a huge cave, 2 figures stood, one tall and one short. Whitey had the blade of grass in his hand and handed it to me. This would be comfortable to lay on, but he was going out hunting now. I sat in the cave with unquestioning good behavior, my eyes looking forward to what prey Whitey would bring. After I watched Whitey fade away, I thought to myself that the big tiger had finally left. I suddenly picked up the bamboo in my hand to show me if that fire was working. I was able to light the torch easily. There's still some dried meat left behind by D. These can be used for barbecuing. Now the jerky is sizzling. I then began to check out the world, and the booklet inside the parcel was written in great detail. Continental basics, soul beasts and females. Soul beasts are evolved from normal orcs and are very strong in combat. As for the females, they are very rare. They are responsible for reproducing and will have many mates. Of course, this assumes the ability to reproduce, which is why the world is polygamous. She suddenly saw the food crunchy fruit. Both the leaves and the fruit are used as medicine. So Grandpa Claus is so good. That fruit still needs to be preserved. After I closed the book with satisfaction, I smelled a hint of something unusual. Sure enough, the meat on the grill is burnt. These things are hard to beat. Whitey walks to the entrance of the cave with his prey and suddenly notices a fire coming from inside. He was startled by the fire inside. Was the cave on fire? The little female was still in the cave. So Whitey quickly rushed inside, looking around in a panic for the little female. I froze and looked at Whitey in front of me, clutching the burnt skewer in my hand. I didn't expect Whitey to suddenly shout that the cave was on fire and tell me to get out. I hastened to tell him to relax, that I had lit this fire myself, but the White Emperor was angry. Do you know that fire is dangerous? You touch it and it will be burnt to ashes. I had to gag him by letting him try the kebabs after they were grilled. Whitey's puzzled gaze changed to shyness. This tasted better than anything he'd ever eaten. It's baked by the fire, and the fact that I spent so much time by it proves that it's not as dangerous as I thought it was. The fire also provides me with warmth and allows me to cook and eat my food. But Whitey is serious. This is still too dangerous. Next time let him cook and roast the meat. I had just walked up to Whitey when he was done with the kebabs. It's true that Pak Thai's kebabs are the best. Soft and tender with no burnt flavor. They are delicious. Whitey sat down across from me and after careful scrutiny he ate it. At this time the cave was warm and welcoming, as if this was a happy life. I leaned back against the rock after eating and drinking my fill and burped comfortably. Whitey suddenly transformed back into his original form and let me rest on his plush backside. I can't wait to touch it. It's like a giant blanket. It's so warm. But then I saw the wounds on his body and suddenly remembered that there were still crunchy berries to bandage up. Whitey said he didn't need it. He just licked it himself. And the crispy fruit told me to keep it for myself. But you're my family, so of course you'll be fine. Crispies aren't as important as you. Whitey suddenly became sentimental. After all, he had never seen his family since he was born, when he was brooding on the sidelines. I quickly tended to his wounds. Bai Di was touched and thought to himself, "This cute little female, I am so lucky to have met you in this life." As the time drew on, with the fire still burning on one side, they were to begin to rest. As they slowly fell asleep, the color outside gradually brightened. I fell into a deep sleep against his body, and the fire across the way actually burned more and more fiercely. Suddenly I opened my eyes and realized something was wrong. It was hot underneath my body, so when I looked quickly, I realized I was having my period. I sat awkwardly, looking around and wondering what to do. At that moment a voice from behind me asked if I was hurt. I ran out the door in an instant, loudly warning Whitey that I wasn't hurt myself. But Whitey didn't believe any of my bullshit. The smell of blood was coming from between his legs. He had to take off his clothes to check, and I broke down and called him a pervert and a pervert. The White Emperor looked like he didn't understand and said in a serious manner that he was a tiger, not a wolf. I had to shyly explain that bleeding was normal, but why would I want to talk about my period with a tiger? As an orc, Whitey didn't know anything about that. He only knew that bleeding all the time would kill him. He suddenly remembered when he was a child, and he was in pain as he walked towards his injured brother, but his brother didn't answer him, and his nose was dying. He suddenly began to mumble, "Are you going to leave me too?" Whitey wouldn't allow that to happen, and as soon as he picked me up, he intended to take me to the witch doctor for an examination. I haven't heard of anyone dying from their period until now. At this moment, Frosty Cloud was covering his wounds in pain, and no one would know how many times he had been hurt. The witch doctor sighed helplessly. He was running out of herbs here, but the witch doctor was exceptionally angry that his energies were now focused on the hunt, in the completely wrong direction. He suddenly reminded Frost Cloud that you should find a female. After all, you're already an adult. As much as I know you hate females, some of them go back to their old ways. Frost Cloud suddenly shouted at him, breaking down to stop the witch doctor from talking any further. He angrily pushed the door open with one hand, turning back slightly to explain to the old witch doctor that the thought of his mother made him sick to his stomach, and with that, he stormed out of the door, not caring about the serious wounds on his body. Frost Cloud, as the leader of the Wolf Clan, has no intention of reproducing any offspring at all. At that moment, Whitey rushed forward with me in his arms, looking worried and asking the old witch doctor to save me. Shyly, I clutched my robe tightly and kept explaining to him that I was fine. But Whitey handed me to the witch doctor. But how can I be looked at in a place like mine? I had to explain to the witch doctor that my constitution is such that I bleed a few days a month. The old witch doctor didn't think there was anything so magical. He'd never seen it before. Suddenly a thought occurred to him. The little female was still unable to determine which race. I was so overwhelmed by their dialogue that I had to admit to them that I was a human being. But humans they had never heard of. Only apes that had come down to them very early in life. I had to take the opportunity to admit it. It's kind of the same ancestor. Barely a race. The old witch doctor, however, was a bit serious. It's better to let her stay here for a few more days first. Then he took out the red berries that replenished my blood and quickly handed them to me. I didn't expect the old grandpa to be so thoughtful, and I was a little touched as I took the red berries in front of me. The old witch doctor, however, was dumbfounded. This little female was gentle and not at all spoiled. She also looked as pretty as she had ever looked. Unlike any other female. Might as well introduce Frosty Cloud to her, but we still need to rest first to see how tomorrow goes. At this point I picked up a needle and thread to mend the animal's coat. And anyway, there are plenty of skins now, so I'll take one and make a pair of pants. But I've never done needlework before, and the stone needle went straight through my finger. I held my fingers in pain while Whitey watched me from in front of me. He suddenly took the animal's skin as soon as he could, indicating that he should be allowed to help with the sewing of the clothes. Then after a burst of easy sewing and a quick threading of the needle, he picked up a pair of delicate panties and handed them to me for me to try on. I took it awkwardly. I didn't realize the big tiger's handiwork was so strong. I quickly ducked behind him and quietly wore I was wearing the carefully sewn panties, but I felt my body was incredibly comfortable. Whitey, you're really good at this. It fits really well, with absorbent soft and leaves in it, and it's barely enough to top off the last few days. By D, however, was very puzzled behind him as to what this thing was actually for. When I saw his claws touching me, I quickly dodged out of the way and shouted at the big pervert. I pouted in displeasure. This big tiger couldn't be playing dumb on purpose, but the man in front of him picked up the hides and looked at them, saying that the rest could be used to make shoes. He thought my feet were softer and I hadn't had this at the market before, so I'd better just do it. My heart thumped up, moved to look at this man, so I sat on a rock and put my foot over it, and sure enough it's still too weird to be touched by a man's foot. Whitey, however, had no other thought than that my feet were so small that I could not use much animal skin, but I was a little shy. The soles of my feet were being rubbed with a tingling sensation, in the end touching it well. He looked up as if he felt it, and asked me to wait a little while. I didn't expect him to pick up the animal skin and sew it quickly, and in 3 or 2 strokes he had made a pair of shoes. I can't believe this one has straps on it, so if it's too big for me I can still pull it up and wear it. I happily tried on the shoes and bounced around showing him the. Whitey doesn't talk about love, he just tells the truth and says I look good in everything. I happily held up the remaining animal skins. Would you like to make a pair of shoes as well? But he refused decisively. It was inconvenient to change his shoes when he transformed into a beastly. Suddenly my mind wandered, imagining what the big tiger would look like in his shoes. But he must have looked really funny with his shoes on. At this time outside the cave entrance, the sunlight from outside has already shone inside the cave. Frosty Cloud took the herbs in her hand, thinking that these should be what the witch doctor wanted. So he went to the witch doctor's residence and pushed open the door only to find a woman's figure. He angrily scolded the woman. How dare she come here to steal things? I tried to explain to him, but he grabbed me by the wrist. He was still chortling loudly, so reckless on the basis that he could bear children. What a shameless female!